CBS 13 News is on your side at 6.
I can't imagine having a baby and just leaving it there to freeze.
A newborn left to die on a cold December night in northern Maine. Her killer never brought to justice.
Now, with the creation of Maine's first ever cold case unit underway, CBS 13 is looking at the unsolved cases.
Tonight, all new at 6, I-Team reporter Marissa Bodner shows us how a family pet tried to save the baby and why its owners are still haunted by the case.
Quiet and rural, Frenchville is nestled in the St. John Valley, right across the river from Canada. A small town with a big heart. A heart that was broken in 1985.
The police are looking for the mother of a newborn baby that was found dead in Frenchville over the weekend.
Police say baby Jane Doe was born in a gravel pit and left to die on a cold December night.
There was some blood in the area, and what probably was the placenta was found in this side road.
She was discovered by a Siberian husky named Paka. The dog carried the baby in its mouth to its owner's back porch.
I couldn't believe it at first. I thought it was just a little doll.
It was 5 in the morning when Paka tapped at their window. But Armand Pelletier and his wife Lorraine remember every detail about that day.
It was a little girl with reddish blonde hair.
When they noticed the torn umbilical cord, they called police.
Couldn't have survived very long. As brutally cold as it was, 20, 30 minutes, maybe at the most, but we don't know.
Jim Medore was a state trooper at the time. When the investigation began, police used canines to track Paka's path back to the gravel pit.
You could have easily seen the back of the car from the road.
So it wasn't the best spot if you were looking to really hide.
No, but it was time for a baby to be born.
Right away, investigators started seeking a couple for questioning.
Police are circulating an artist composite of the young couple that may be tied to the case of that baby found dead in Frenchville Saturday.
They came forward but were ruled out.
We exhausted all leads, including, both sides of the border.
In less than 2 weeks, the trail had gone cold.
A lot of unanswered questions.
Is it something you still think of?
All the time.
The Pelletiers could never have children of their own.
I asked them, if there would have been a possibility, if the baby would have lived, if we would have had a chance to adopt it, and they said there might have been a possibility, but it is what it is.
Now, the best they can hope for is answers.
It would be closure. It would be closure. I would want to know why. Why didn't you ring our doorbell? Why didn't you bring it to hospital?
This person has got to be feeling a lot of guilt.
The mother is key when it comes to unraveling this mystery.
I believe with the DNA evidence and with the capabilities that we have today in the labs, this case can be solved.
Police were able to determine that wounds caused by Paka didn't cause the baby's death.
Not life-threatening at all, just, handled it with care.
Paka died of cancer in 1987.
Yeah, she was a good girl.
The girl she tried to save would have turned 30 this year.
I can't imagine having a baby and just leaving it there to freeze.
This case, like all cold cases, is still open, and state police say they follow up on every lead. Anyone with information should call the Holton Barracks at 532-5400. And next week, we head to Lewiston, where a young mother was beaten to death outside of a laundromat in 1976. Nearly 40 years later, her murder is still a mystery. That's coming up next week on CBS 13 News at 6.
Right now in Maine, there are 85 official unsolved homicide and missing persons cases. And over the next month, CBS 13 will put a spotlight on one of them each week. We begin in Porter, where, as Marissa Bodner reports tonight, a 14-year-old boy skipped school, then vanished on his way to the fair.
For many Mainers, the Fryeburg Fair is a symbol of fall, a time for food and fun. The fair triggers a much different feeling for the family of Roger Day.
We were just talking, and he said, "I'm not going to school today. I'm going to skip school and go to the fair." And that was the last time I saw him.
That was exactly 42 years and 26 days ago. But Roger's big sister Leanne remembers it well.
As vividly as you can remember something when you're 15 years old.
October 3rd, 1973 was a typical morning. Their mom left for work. Then Leanne says she and her 3 siblings had breakfast well before it was time to get on the school bus.
I don't even think he ever made it to the fair, to tell you the truth. Roger
was 14 years old. According to state police, his dad reported him missing the next day.
There's been nothing. It's just like he was body snatched, and really there's been no clues at all.
As the case went cold, life went on. Leanne says their mom kept busy. Their dad did the only thing he could.
He went to the fair every year looking for him, thinking that maybe he went off with the carnies and he's there somewhere. I think they kind of both blamed themselves. I mean, what parent wouldn't?
Leanne believes her brother is no longer alive.
Hardly a day goes by that something doesn't trigger a memory.
There are a lot of good memories.
He just loved life.
But his fiery temper sometimes flared when it was time to do chores.
He just would walk off and say, "Well, I got you to do it for me, didn't I?"
Leanne never knew of anyone who'd want to hurt Roger. That is, until some troubling information surfaced about 15 years ago.
There was a pedophile that lived 2-3 houses down, and we didn't even know it at the time.
She can't help but think he had something to do with it. That maybe it explains why Roger's behavior was causing trouble at home.
I think my brother was had a strong personality, and I think he may have said to this man, "Look, I'm done with this, and I'm going to start telling." I think that man was capable of violence.
To keep him quiet?
Mm-hmm.
State police won't confirm any speculation since it's still an open investigation. Lieutenant Brian McDonough says the case was in the hands of the Oxford County Sheriff's Office up until 5 years ago.
It's an extremely old case. It's obviously a devastating case. I mean, a 14-year-old just disappears, and there's no evidence, there's no witnesses, there's no information on what happened to him.
Leanne knows answers may never come.
God knows about. He knows where Roger is and what has happened, and maybe he doesn't want us to know. Maybe he's protecting us from the details.
For many Mainers, the Fryeburg Fair is a tradition that keeps coming round and round. For Roger Day's family, a ride that never seems to end. Roger Day would be getting ready to celebrate his 57th birthday next week. Certainly a tough time for the family.
Oh, so heartbreaking. You can still hear the pain in his sister's voice, Marissa.
Can't even imagine. And Marissa, has there been any recent activity on this case?
Back in 2013, there was a development. State police searched a property in Porter. It's on Route 25. And according to Roger Day's family, they say that property did belong to the neighbor who was accused of various sexual assaults. They say nothing was found. Police have never found a body. Again, there was no crime scene, so police say really this is a very difficult case to solve.
It would be so great if there could be some answers,
So
though.
great.
Thank you, Marissa. A teenage girl goes out with friends in Calais. Days later, her body washes ashore. With the creation of Maine's first cold case unit underway, CBS 13 is looking at the long list of unsolved cases.
And tonight, family and friends of Linda Maxwell are talking to I-Team reporter Marissa Bodner about the murder that has puzzled them for decades.
Life in this small down east town turned upside down in 1984.
It was just horrible. It was the worst thing to that point in my life that I'd ever been through.
Kim Stedman was one of the last people to see Linda Maxwell alive. 31 years, 2 months, and 25 days later, she still doesn't know how her friend ended up in the St. Croix River.
Her biggest fear was drowning.
According to old newspapers, that's exactly how Linda died. She was 18.
All I knew was she drowned and she was found at the boat landing, and she was naked. She didn't have, and they never found her clothes.
Frank Maxwell was 11 years older than his little sister,
That's her.
but lived right next door in Robbinston.
For the difference in the age, we seem to be fairly close.
They went on grand adventures, camping, exploring, riding their dad's tractor.
She was happy all the time and playing and doing what little girls do.
But the tides brought change during Linda's teenage years when she left high school and sports behind, started dating a new guy, and joined what some call a rougher crowd in town.
I don't know what possessed her to go with those people.
Stedman says they were older and into drugs. She saw Linda with them on the night of August 23rd, when the group pulled into the Mart parking lot, their usual hangout, in a truck. Heather Henry Tennant was also there.
I did know of her, and I saw her. And
They say Linda left with the same group. The next morning, she was a missing person, and the community started to search.
Oh, did it ever? Oh, the whole town just started to rally, you know. And of course, those small town rumor mills, you know, started to circulate, and people became defensive.
3 days later, Linda's naked body washed ashore at the Robbinston boat landing.
My dad, after this happened, he was never quite the same.
Linda's big brother wishes he could have protected her.
You know, it happened and it was over with, and there's nothing I could do. I'd like to be able to do something.
With little evidence.
No trace, nothing, no answers.
The case went cold.
It really impacted me immensely, even though we were just acquaintances.
Tennant became a reporter for the Calais Advertiser. She wrote a story about Linda Maxwell every August for 21 years.
It did generate more discussion, more controversy. It kept it in the forefront. People never forgot.
It led to tips for police and speculation in the community. Frank Maxwell has developed a theory, he says, based on information from investigators.
I'm very sure what happened. Somebody tried to rape her. She ran in the water and tried to get away from him.
He'd like to know for certain.
I'm always going to be a little bit, even if they catch the guys and put them away, I'll be glad. But I'm always going to be bitter that she never got a chance to enjoy life.
Nothing can bring Linda back, but answers would ease some of the pain for this small town.
Somebody that was in that vehicle with her that night is lying about what happened.
Somebody knows, and I think it can be solved.
But the question remains, will anyone speak up to bring a killer to justice? In Calais, Marissa Bodner, CBS 13 News.